Fortunately, we could have another wet morning commute for some areas. It's kind of been the theme this week with a lot of activity, mainly south of I-90, but this will be maybe a little bit further north. Still, some areas will see dryness. Other areas will have another wet morning commute to deal with. And then as we go through the afternoon, we're going to start seeing some breaks. But then as we go to the evening commute, we're going to start probably seeing more showers developing, which will turn eventually into really a wet Thursday night. The better news is we're going to be drying out finally for the second half of Friday. But all this thunderstorm activity that's somewhat strong to severe will begin to lift a little bit further north, the activity, but it's not expected to be, it'll weaken. So more shower type activity as it approaches maybe La Crosse after midnight. This will be scattered in nature. It'll start picking up a little bit in coverage as we go throughout the night, but really right along I-90, and then eventually as we get closer to the morning commute, this line or this area of light rain showers will be along I-90 or just further north. Now this could shift a little bit, but I think it will stay just south of I-94. And then as we go throughout the morning, this area will continue. It looks a little probably more impressive than what will actually fall from the atmosphere. As we go throughout the afternoon hour, this will begin to kind of fall apart towards noon and the early afternoon time frame. Once we get past that time frame, I think in the afternoon, generally it's going to be fairly dry, and then we're going to see the next activity begin to approach in the afternoon time frame. This will then become more of a wet condition going into Friday morning. That's the bigger story going into Thursday and Friday is the rain. It'll be more steady light rain, which means I think we're going to have a wet morning for the Friday morning commute once again. The good news is once we get through that, things do change. Give you another picture. This is what it's looked like after midnight. All that activity will lift to the northeast, so we'll see that kind of rotate through the area. By the time we get to about 10, 11, a lot of it's more spotty light showers. Then towards the afternoon and evening, we'll start clearing those skies out. Unfortunately, with those arrows coming from the north, we got a north wind that'll be blowing Friday afternoon, so it will be kind of chilly-ish compared to what we'll see probably for the temperatures, so more in the 50s as we go Friday. Now the better news for the weekend, we're going to see more temperatures, but rainfall, this has shifted a little bit further south, and expect more shift with this depending on how things play out. But there will be a narrow corridor that areas get from now all the way to Friday noon that could push 1.5 inches potentially if we get some thunderstorm activity. Once again, a lot of areas will probably stay on the 3/4 of an inch to maybe an inch, but there could be areas that get more, so something to stay tuned on. Tomorrow's highs, as mentioned, cooler, but there are still some 70s out there towards the southwest. They'll have more sun in the afternoon, less cloud cover. Then as we go into Friday, we're looking at Friday's highs, even cooler, probably more in the 50s, even low 50s. Probably the coolest day of the 8-day period is right there, and we'll have more sun eventually late Friday. Then it's going through the weekend. Saturday, we're looking at temperatures more in the mid-60s. This is about where we should be average temperatures going on. And then as we go for Sunday, even warmer, potentially 70, because we have a big system coming through that also bears watching because it could have some severe weather going into Monday, along with pretty warm temperatures too on Monday. Could be the upper 70s before we cool off quickly behind that front for the rest of the week, getting back to where we should be in the mid-60s. So once again, more rain for Thursday, but it is going to be feeling a little bit cooler, so I don't expect to see a lot more 70s here. Probably not until maybe Sunday, but more likely on Monday.
All right. Thanks, Greg.